Hello, Inside Number Nine fans. I mean, you might have never seen the show and you're still watching these videos. That's also cool. Welcome back to our series, going through each season, as we've decided we're going to call it, of the show, ranking the episodes, and then eventually going to rank every single one in our grand finale. Andrew's joining me again. I Andrew had never seen the show before, and he's now seen 12 episodes, 6 hours of Inside Number Nine. So I'm sure your general opinion is starting to form of how you feel about the show. So that's exciting. I'm a long time fan, but because of its nature, as if you don't know, it's a half-hour anthology show inspired by the Twilight Zone primarily, but also, plenty of other different things ranging from comedy to horror to science fiction to not the science fiction as much yet, but that'll come. Yeah, it's a really great show. I think so anyway. And series two for me is where, without giving away too much, the sort of classic run of the show begins, where we get into, I would say, the first peak of the show. Let's say that starts here. So, Andrew, how are you feeling going into this after season one? I know you were mostly positive on season one.
Yeah, and I think if I were to compare the two, like last season, I felt there was a spectrum of quality in the 6 episodes, and I still feel that way here. But I'd give this one a leg up because I just thought it had a higher floor and more consistency on that level. So um, I think I had a couple that I was like I was neither here nor there on. It's a little bit less so this time around.
Great to hear. I'll let you go first this time since I went first last time.
Sure. So my number six, I'm going with. Well, first of all, I did this in reverse rating order this time. Last time I just ran through it in release order. So this time I was approaching it a different way. This was not the lowest rated one. It's Nana's Party. And this episode, it kind of felt like the equivalent to me of the last season's balloon episode with this like bright domestic family setting. Here you've got this birthday party with like this planned cake prank at the center of it. As things go on, like a secret starts to make things more complicated, and some of the history between the characters unfolds and kind of descends into chaos at one point. I have to say they kind of tested my patience with that cake thing not going on, almost to frustrating levels, but they did make it go somewhere. It kept my interest enough, but I don't think there was anything too groundbreaking here. Mostly just like a family drama that could really happen with a bit of quirk added into it. So I'm giving this one a 6 out of 10.
It's a good start. It's also my number six, and it is also a 6 out of 10 for me. I think it's better, like you said, better than the floor of the last season. I think it's a better episode than the Harrowing, which I had as my last place last time out. I think it's decent. Again, I'm going to be telling you where each of these episodes rank on IMDb. And this is the 33rd highest rated episode out of 55, which I found quite surprising that there are like, what, 20 plus episodes lower rated than this one. Not that I think it's bad, I think it's okay. It's definitely the episode I remembered the least from this season. And I think that makes sense. The one bit that I really did remember was I guess, spoilers. It's not a massive spoiler because not much actually happens in this episode. But the bait and switch with the ambulance male stripper, that's the one bit that I really remembered from this episode. And it's like one of those things you watch like, what am I even watching? What is this? Is it supposed to be funny? Is it supposed to be uncomfortable? Like it's a weird, like in between thing, but it is so uncomfortable that it is funny, I think. It's an episode that's heavy on farce, and I think a lot of the best Inside Number Nine episodes are really funny. And this one, the drama's okay. The comedy doesn't really work for me. It's, at least if we're being generous, it's hit and miss. And I actually think the episode is at its best when it's taking itself seriously. You have those conversations between the characters with, I think it's the mission Ennio Morricone is playing. That whole bit was really good, and yeah, the reframing of the Christmas card, the birthday card joke at the end. Yeah, it's okay. It's not one that I'd rush to rewatch, but it basically does what it was aiming to do fairly effectively.
Nice. We're in lockstep so far. For my number five, uh, this was actually my first one up because it was the lowest listed seance time. I thought this one was all right and definitely a step up from the first horror finale in terms of enjoyment from last season. So you got this crew running a scary hidden camera show with unknowing guests, like the show Scare Tactics. Not sure if you've seen that, but I've seen that show. Um, with guest number two, things go awry when he defends himself from what he thinks is a demon. Um, there's some humor, I think, in the cynical take on like the filming process of this, and it's also creepy enough once things turn in the back half. The twist for me wasn't crazy surprising. I feel like they dropped the seeds pretty well along the way, but it gets the job done. And I thought this was yeah, definitely better in the horror department than we'd seen prior. I probably got a kick most out of the character Hives and his like amoral drive to maintain his career. Um, so yeah, this I guess I'd give this one a 7 out of 10.
There we go. That's good. I'd like to hear that. So, my number five is a different episode, actually. It is La Couchette, the premiere of the season. I would give this a seven as well, and this really shocked me. This is ranked as the 16th best episode of Inside Number 9 on IMDb, which I just don't agree with at all. I think it's like a slightly weaker version of Sardines. It's kind of a similar kind of premise. Although I do like the setting quite a lot. It's quite unique, and if you ever stayed on an overnight train, it is like really relatable. The humor is pretty crass with all the fart jokes, but it, it, it kind of puts you in the shoes of Reese Smith's character, which with the twist at the end is effective in how it does that because then it sort of challenges what you were thinking, you know. Again, similar to Nana's Party, the humor for me, especially Jack Whitehall's character, not doesn't really work for me. He's sort of like making these little quips at like the worst time every time, and it gets a little bit grating. That said, it kind of does a double twist like Tom and Jerry did last season, and I think this one is more effective. I think, whereas I did mention last season, I think Tom and Jerry's a better episode overall, but that double twist almost undermined the episode. Whereas I think the double twist here is like, oh, okay, it kind of gives it a bit more of an oomph at the end. So it kind of takes a while to get going. It takes a while to grow into itself, but once you get the different elements come in, like the body, and then you know the twist at the end, yeah, it's a solid seven. But there are definitely more than 15 episodes of Inside Number 9 that I like more than it. But yeah, it's my number five. I like it enough.
Nice. Well, I'm going with another episode for my number four, and that's the trial of Elizabeth Gage. Can't remember pronunciation there. So basically has the show doing their take on like 17th century witch trials. And like those, it's like very much like a sham of like a legal proceeding full of pseudoscience, confirmation bias, and the like. Get this woman accused by her daughter and son-in-law and various other townsfolk with an agenda. You got those two witch finders kind of finding themselves like in moral opposition with each other about the business they do. The highlight for me of this episode is David Warner putting in like quite an amusing turn as the magistrate. And then the twist at the end goes quite dark. Don't think I would like the implications if like this was a more serious work. Like it would be like really like, oh, what is it saying about, you know, morality and stuff. But here it's clearly meant to be ironic and I think fulfills the twist that we've come to expect from like the show. So it works well in that regard. Kind of reminds me, The Simpsons did a Trios of Horror segment. I'm not sure if you've seen this one yet. That kind of has some similar beats to it. This one I'm gonna stick with 7 as well.
Out of interest, which Treehouse segment?
It's the one in season 9.
Oh, I haven't reached that yet. Okay.
Yeah. So, but you'll get there soon enough.
Mhm. My number four, you have mentioned it. It is Seance Time, the final episode. I'm going to stick with a seven for this. It's the 47th out of 55 on IMDb. Again, not quite aligning with me. I obviously think it's better than La Couchette, and it's like 30 spots lower than it on the overall ranking. But yeah, as you mentioned, and as I mentioned last episode, the finale of each season in these early years tends to be the horror episode. And I think my first watch, I probably took a while for me to grow into this episode because there's I'm not really that picky with like if something's good, something's good. There's not like genres or styles or cliches that I don't like point blank. Pretty much the only thing that I don't like is seances. I always find them so goofy, like the distorted voices, and it's always so self-serious. And I just everything it's in, it makes it worse, I think. Especially in like modern horror films. Like in older things, you can give it a pass because it's kind of already inherently quite goofy and because of its age. But what I didn't realize on my first watch was that's kind of the point. It's supposed to be ridiculous. It's supposed to be a farce. The lead actress kind of akin to the harrowing. I guess the lead actress of the first third of the episode. The young girl, again, quite a wooden, stiff performance. And I think on my first watch, I was thinking, oh, okay, it's another the harrowing. But then they flip it, and they reveal that it's this prank show. You mentioned it. Reece Smith is great in this episode. He's such like a diva. And again, like it works because, I was thinking, I don't really like this lead girl. And then like 5 minutes later, he's like saying, well, I don't know, she was a bit stiff, wasn't she? She didn't really give much of a good scare. And she's obviously stood right there. The reveal at the end is great. Like you said, there's some good seeding, like when he finds the puddle. I mean, even on a rewatch, I was like, didn't immediately think anything of that. And then obviously when it ends, you think about moments like that. You think, oh, that's really good, like subtle seeding. Maybe not subtle, but quiet, I guess. And yeah, like you said, the last 2 minutes is actually maybe not scary, but it's more scary and it's a bit more unsettling and it gives you a bit of a ooh, okay, that was maybe a bit unexpected and a bit more creepy. Yeah, it's a really good episode. I'm gonna stick with a seven, but it's close to an eight. Um, I did also like Steve Pemberton in this episode because I have worked in a bar and I know loads of people that are like that. Let's leave it at that.
Very nice. Well, for my number three, going with La Couchette, the ensemble bottle episode this time around in the sleeping train of or the sleeping cabin, I guess, in the train. Um, First little bit of the episode, it almost reminds me of like planes, trains, and automobiles with like the straight man having all these things get in the way of good night's sleep, but then it gets more complicated as we go along. Colorful cast of characters here. I actually kind of like the opportunistic stowaway guy. Um, but of course, mid-episode things turn when I don't know how much to reveal with spoilers, but this is like a mid-episode thing where like one bunk has a dead body on it. Um, and then it's a question of like, oh, can we agree to keep this quiet to get to where we're going and go on with our lives? Moral dilemma. I like the basic premise of this one. One knock against it is I think the toilet humor that pops up is just too much for my liking. I would want it in small doses, and we get a lot here. Um, Otherwise, I thought the episode was promising with like some clever interactions, and I do like how they threw in the second twist. I think from what you were saying, like the timing of how they lay it out, like you think the mid-episode turn is that's what we're getting, and then there's some extra spice to it at the end. So I'm still sticking with seven on this one because I think there was some good potential, but some elements that hold it back.
Yeah, I didn't even think about the mid episode just because then what I was thinking about is like literally in the last minute of the episode, you get the twist with Reece Smith's character of him, again, without
Oh, I
trying
see
not
what
to
you're
spoil it.
saying. I see
And
what you're
then,
saying. Yeah,
yeah, okay,
yeah,
you see what I mean.
yeah, yeah,
People who've seen the episode will know what I mean. People who haven't, I don't think I've revealed too much. Um, my number three, and it's interesting the way we've talked about this season. I think there are more consistent seasons to come, even though I like Seance Time and La Couchette enough. I think there are more consistently great seasons to come. We'll get to those. This one has three really, really great episodes for me. And one of them I'm in the minority for, and the other two I pretty much think every Inside Number Nine fan loves, and they're your top two. Because my number three is The Trial of Elizabeth Gadge. This is ranked 37 out of 55, which I think is crazy. I've always loved this episode. I'm going with a 9 on this one. I think this has got so much going for it. It's one of the most atmospheric episodes they ever penned, and I think atmosphere really goes a long way for me. If you can create like a compelling, tense atmosphere without making your seeds too obvious, that really goes a long way. And I think a lot of the show, there's a lot of great guest performances, obviously, but I think a lot of it lies in Reece Shearsmith and Steve Pemberton, who of course are in every episode, and their chemistry here and their dynamic is fantastic. And the way this episode balances tone, oh, it is brilliant. How it can veer from these like really farcical comedy scenes into this like, darkly lit philosophizing about the nature of law. It's literally 3 minutes after like the really dumb humor that made me laugh. I agree with you. David Warner is great as well, and that sort of like trio is really fun. Paul Kay as well as Richard Two Shoes. I always like Paul Kay. He's great in Game of Thrones as well in a small role. Obviously, I've lived in a rural area for a long time in my life, so I think a lot of the jokes based around there's plenty to do here, and there's even a toilet. And it's like and a plant, stuff like that. It works for me, and it sort of sways effortlessly between this like quite lowbrow, not toilet humor, but lowbrow humor, and this like Shakespearean dialogue. That contrast is really good, and it's funny you bring up Treehouse of Horror because I was actually reminded of The Simpsons in a few of the jokes in this episode. They were very Simpsons-esque. Like when he finds the torture tool, he goes like, and it will bring you ecstasy, agony, yes. And Arise Goody Two Shoes as well. Like it's a lot of really kind of silly but really good humor. Um, Ruth Sheen as well as Elizabeth Gadge as well is really great. So brilliant ensemble cast. There's not really a weak one in it. Even Jim Howick and his wife, the daughter of Elizabeth Gadge, really good, really funny, really entertaining, rather gripping, quietly funny, very atmospheric, and I like period pieces in general. So I think that was also a win for me. I love this episode, and maybe it's not the dynamite knockout of our top two episodes. But I do really like it, and now I'm intrigued to see which way around you've got them. So
Yeah, maybe that's a commentary as well, like how we rank that episode. Because I often struggle with period pieces, but I love courtroom drama, so it almost like balanced it out for me. So yeah, but yeah, for my number two, I feel like this is the conventional order. I have Cold Comfort as my number two. This was a strong episode, somewhat like found footage, like kind of like the digital age kind of found footage with like, the multiple angles set in the office available at once, shot entirely through that for the audience, taking place at like this support line center, and then the new guy just starting work there gets repeated calls from like this teenage girl, and this has consequences on the man. Turns out to unfold into a more sinister twist taking place. I think this episode highlights for me how the two uh, leads from the show can both do like the straight and the more eccentric roles well. Um, I could have pictured each playing either role here, and I think it would have worked out pretty much just as well as it did. I think the strength of the episode is just how it keeps it relatively simple while having the reveals unfold naturally over the course of the episode. It's also one of those episodes where you would watch it again, looking back on it with new perspective, and I think that would only be to its benefit. Um, like one minute you're paying close attention to what each phone call means, the dialogue there. Then you're wondering what the coworkers' deals are, and ultimately it goes back to the visual choice of the episode to have multiple things going on at once and reflecting back on that. So I thought this was a really clever one. Um, I'm going an 8 just because I think on an emotional level, there's still higher to go, um, which we'll get to shortly.
Yeah, we're lining up. It is my number two. I was close between a 9 and a 10, and I think I'm gonna commit to a 10 on this one. Which means there's two of the best ever episodes of Inside Number Nine, in my opinion, at least in this season. It is ranked sixth out of 55 on IMDb, so it is very highly thought of. I think it's one of the most iconic episodes. And I think the framing device is pretty novel watching it now, but I think even like 10 years ago on the BBC airing at 9 o'clock on a whatever night, I think it was Thursday nights it was airing on. I might be wrong. But even more so because, BBC dramas and comedies are usually just shot very workmanlike. There's not much visual flair and this kind of creativity is really cool, and I think it was one of the things that set this show apart from a lot of the stuff that was airing on the BBC at this time. Um, it's these top two are easily the darkest episodes of this season, and I think that's a lot of the reason they get the acclaim is because they deal with heavy, heavy subject matters, and even though maybe the subject matter is not quite what you think it is in this episode, let's put it that way. Um, Steve Pemberton, I could say it about every performance he gives. I think Reece Shearsmith is great as well, but Pemberton as the new employee in this is fantastic, showing some real vulnerability, but also like a really short fuse, this like anxiety and this clear emotional baggage that we never really get into, but you can just tell from the way he reacts to certain things, the way his body language is, the way he speaks to people. And much like the trial of Elizabeth Gadge, I mean, I think it stands out more in this because you get some really out of left field humor with the masturbation running gag is actually pretty funny. And like you mentioned, I think I probably would have had this as a 9 on my first watch, but coming back to it, reassessing the show and where it came from, and I think it's such an important episode for this show. But also on a rewatch, you're just watching Reece Shearsmith's character and you're just thinking, okay, so okay, and then there's one part where he leaves the building and then the phone rings, but as soon as he walks through the door, 2 seconds later the phone rings, and you're like, okay, I see what they're doing there. And the bit at the end where he's like facing up the security camera, oh, it's so good. The visual style of this episode is fantastic. It's really tense. There's a couple quite effective red herrings, and yeah, there's elements you might not think are going to come back that do come back. I'm talking about the cat. If you've seen the episode, you know what I mean. And I also do really love a dark ending juxtaposed with an peppy upbeat song over the credits, and to take that song after this episode is such an unhinged choice, but I love it. So it's just stellar television to me, and I think if you did rewatch it, you might get up to a 9 on it. I think maybe, but yeah,
Could very well
it's
be the case.
it's a great one.
Well, I guess that means that we're going to be lining up for our number ones. Uh, 12 Days of Christine. And this one could go down as a potential series favorite. Who knows? I had an inkling this would be an important entry, just like seeing where it ranked compared to other episodes in the series, and I wasn't disappointed. So that's the great news. Pretty much get to watch like these pivotal moments in this woman's life in her apartment, like budding romances, marriage, pregnancy, parenthood, divorce. Um, but I think the how it earns it is throughout the episode, there's something that's just a little bit off. Sometimes a stray line here and there, sometimes the ominous happenings going on, and you can tell there's something wrong, but you can't quite figure out how yet. And then, of course, it all comes together in an emotional payoff that I think is really what makes the episode a special one. I was like for most of the episode, I was tunneling in on like the cryptic references to the ex-boyfriend, and I thought that was all going to tie in, but it's a little bit more profound than that. We get our usual two um, Steve and Reese, but they're in secondary roles this time, and I think that's a wise choice to have like them kind of just in the background, let the story speak for itself more. Um, it's possible this could get to a 10 at some point. I'm always a harsh grader, so I'm going to stick with a 9, but I would not be surprised if this ends up being my number one for the whole run. We'll see.
Yeah, it's the highest ranked episode of Inside Number 9 on IMDb. It's a 10, obviously, because Cold Comfort's a 10. And for many people, I think this is the episode of Inside Number 9. It is, if Cold Comfort is one of the most iconic, this is the most iconic. Even people who haven't really watched the show have probably seen this episode because people will not shut up about it. And that's fine because it's amazing. What's interesting is that Stephen Reese maybe not disowned it, but I think Reese especially has said a few times that he's a bit sick of talking about it, and he's sick of people saying it's the best thing they've ever seen. Because obviously, they've put in a lot of effort into this show and put a lot of episodes in. And as you said, the two creators are barely in this one. Though I think they're important roles, especially Reese's role. It's very chilling and adds a lot of these like horror elements. The whole look of his character, like rain drenched with the steamed up glasses in the bright yellow coat. It's quite a striking visual. Sheridan Smith, what a performance! Juggles so much, and even though she has been in a lot of other British programs, you kind of forget that you're watching an actress by the end of the second scene. That's how incredible this performance is. The emotional through line and the drama of this episode is just fantastic. But those horror elements that make you wonder what the hell's going on are really effective as well. Direction is fantastic. The way it dishes out information visually rather than explaining things. Like the bit I think of is when she wakes up in the bed and then it pans across to the wedding photo and then pans back to the baby bump. Brilliant. That is just like efficient storytelling right there. And they kind of had to be, I suppose. It's tragic, but it's also so clever. You mentioned some of the hints, like, he wouldn't want you to remember him like this. On a rewatch, a line like that just hits like a ton of bricks. Um, the conversation with her dad, near the end of the episode, again on a rewatch, completely different. Um, the final dinner scene, it's not only one of the all-time great episodes of this show. I won't reveal whether it's my favorite yet or not. Um, I think it's an all-timer in television, period. Beautiful, devastating, almost a thesis statement and a reason for this show to exist. That's how good it is. Uh, so yeah.
I think the other thing that's notable about that one is it's the type of story that they easily could have done like back in the days of the Twilight Zone, and it would have been a classic then as well. It's just that kind of universal, just clever framing, storytelling, and then reveal for where it's headed.
Yeah, surprise, surprise. We both love the 12 Days of Christine and Reece Shearsmith and Steve Pemberton. If you're watching, we're not sorry because it is one of the best episodes you've ever done. Um, Let us know what you think of Inside Number 9 Season 2. We are going to try and get Season 3 out before Christmas since it does open with a Christmas episode, and I thought that would be a nice little little thing we could do. We'll try. We'll see. You know how the upload schedule is around here. It can be a bit sporadic. And then in the new year, we'll be hitting up 1995 for our favorite TV of that year. I'm getting close to being done. So yeah, that's exciting.
Sweet.
Thanks, Andrew, for joining me again.
Yeah, thanks for
Uh,
having me, as
yeah, I'm
always.
glad to hear that you're enjoying the show. And see you for season 3 in a couple of weeks.